If you've listened for a bit, you know I have a theme of ripping on outrage. But for good reason, I contend. For one, the source of your garden variety online outrage du jour is typically trivial.
What? This guy touched some 14-year-old boob when he was also 14?
Yeah, I guess, but really, I think the controversy should be how fucking crazy his freak show family is.
What? This Muslim was denied a sealed can of Diet Coke on an airplane? Discrimination!
Yeah, I guess. But I mean, nobody gets closed beverages on an airplane, so it's not really that big of a deal.
What? This upcoming game doesn't represent every possible human population category? I want all games to have an exact census-derived, proportionally allocated, demographically accurate selection of characters.
You cannot be serious!
But they are, or at least they claim to be. The other reason I despise this faux outrage is because it's here today, gone tomorrow. The people pushing this outrage write a blog post, they tweet a couple mad faces with extra pointy eyebrows, they pat themselves on the back and they go spend the weekend doing nothing about it until next week's reason to convince yourself you're more righteous than everyone around you.
It's
a joke.
No. Nothing's allowed to be a joke, remember?
Right, sorry. So let me clarify. The outrage is insincere to the extent that it is it's a joke. But today I flip the script. Today I will speak sincerely on something I believe to be worthy of real outrage, and I'll make the case to you. It's rare that I read a news headline and actually say out loud, what the fuck? But I did the other day to this headline. Ross Ulbricht, creator of Silk Road website, is sentenced to life in prison. Let's rewind to give those not privy to this story a bit of necessary background. The Silk Road was a website that operated for 3 years, all through Bitcoin currency. It was a place where buyers and sellers could exchange any product anonymously. Naturally, that anonymous marketplace was primarily used to exchange the types of products for which you would want to have anonymity and privacy: illegal drugs, illegal weapons, and the like. Now, I'm not prepared to argue that Mr. Ulbricht deserved no punishment whatsoever. To some extent, I grant that he facilitated criminal transactions that might not have occurred otherwise. But I'm very troubled by the implications of this case and the implications for how we treat non-violent criminals among us. The first cause for my worry here is Mr. Ulbricht was merely a facilitator, not a pusher or a hustler. He didn't have a warehouse full of drugs or weapons he was trying to offload. He merely provided those with a pre-existing interest in those products with a safe, anonymous way to acquire them. When a hitman is solicited on Craigslist, we don't charge the Craigslist founder with murder. When a grown man preys on a child in a chat room, we don't charge AOL with pedophilia or the sexual solicitation of a minor. While I grant that these are not perfect analogies and that the Silk Road was more tailored to criminal activity than Craigslist or AOL, the fact remains: the Silk Road did no more direct harm to anybody than either of these websites do. The statements by the judge presiding over the case are clear. This was a landmark, first of its kind decision, and the judge intended on making an example of Ulbricht, as though this case will be some type of deterrent. What you did in connection with the Silk Road was terribly destructive to our social fabric, the judge said, adding, without equivocation, if you break the law in this way, there will be very serious consequences. Fine. Serious consequences, but as the great Heath Ledger might ask, why so serious? Why that serious? Take his entire life away? The rest of his freedom on this earth? I'm not arguing as a lawyer, but purely as a legal layman. Consider this. Darren Sharper went on a multi-state rape spree of several women, pled guilty, and received 9 years in prison. The CEO of Enron was convicted on 19 counts related to the perpetuation of an accounting fraud scheme that robbed investors of millions. He received 24 years in prison, recently reduced to 14. Jerry Sandusky molested and raped young boys in Penn State shower facilities and his home basement for decades. Guilty on 45 counts of child sexual abuse, sentenced to as little as 30 years imprisonment. How do we treat people who do real predatory physical or financial harm to others more leniently than a man who provides us with a resource to act anonymously of our own volition, to engage in transactions by our own choosing and at our own risk? Mr. Ulbricht is not a predator. He is a genius. As he stated in court, I remember clearly why I created the Silk Road. I wanted to empower people to be able to make choices in their lives, for themselves and to have privacy and anonymity. And that is exactly what he did. This is an innovative, creative mind, perhaps slightly misguided, but a genius mind nonetheless. And instead of re-guiding that mind to put it to productive use in society, we are effectively shooting it dead. And why? To teach any potential copycats a lesson, the judge might say? I guess. To that theory, I have two responses. One, if your aim is to stop the internet, or to stop recreational drug use, good luck! At this point, both forces are nearly equivalent to gravity. Fight them all you want, but you're battling the inevitable. And two, creative and genius minds by their very nature push boundaries in an effort to test what is possible. Physical boundaries, conceptual boundaries, in this case, legal boundaries. But when innovative minds go astray and push legal boundaries in unacceptable ways, as was the case here, let's think of ways to realign that creative resource to other uses, not throw it out with the trash. If you want to talk about the integrity of our social fabric, let's not throw away some of our foremost tailors because they made one bad garment. Thanks as always for listening and for supporting this series. I always enjoy the thoughtful discussion below and on Twitter at skag_3. I'd really like to hear some of your perspective on this case. I think it's a very important one. So let me know what you think. Okay, thanks. Bye.